a flamenco night, and on this occasion we have invited two good friends who collaborate with us, as you already know, in the Artisan School project, and also people whom we have a lot, you could say completely, of respect and admiration for many years, because since we have so much contact with the artisans, they have been explaining their experiences with them a little bit, and they are always about respect, affection, and personal treatment, right? We deeply value their insights and the genuine connections we have formed with them over the years. And above all, apart, professionalism. So for this reason, we wanted to invite Tony and Jose Luis from Madera Barber, who are here. So how are you feeling?
Very good.
It's nice to come and visit you and get to know your space, which we didn't know before, and thanks for inviting us to be with you.
Thanks to you for coming, and well, many people do not know the neophytes, and especially our listeners who are usually guitar enthusiasts, know the artisans. So it is very important for us. It is super fun, this interview, because you are the first phase before the artisan. You are the ones who have to find wood. There is the issue of cured wood, green wood. Let's see how it is cured, how to find it, and what the process entails in order to create the perfect guitar. All these questions are complex for others and even for us, and in your case, because it is the daily bread, and this is fun to explain to people. So let's start from the beginning.
Can you tell me about Madera Barber?
How does it start?
Madera Barber has been involved in the wood business for Luthery since the year 1957. The Barber family was already dedicated to the wood business, mainly wicker, and in those years I was already traveling around the world for international fairs selling wicker materials. As they had contact with some artisans in the world of Luthery, they knew that they traveled to Germany and asked them if they could bring some German spruce tops, which was the most difficult thing to find in Spain at the time. As a result, Santiago Barber made several trips to bring wood directly for the luthiers. But they were not dedicated to the world of Luthery. That's when they saw that they could have a niche in the market and started selling other exotic woods.
How good is that?
From those times until now.
Until now, and exactly 66 years already.
We have achieved. In May, we will mark our 66th year of establishment and success.
And at that time, I envisioned Santiago traveling throughout Spain in search of artisans because the company was extremely small.
It was almost more about looking for Santiago than Santiago looking for the artisans. That was a coincidence. His business was another one that was already in decline. The wicker was no longer being manufactured, and there was demand from artisans who knew they were traveling internationally and could bring those woods. Then Santiago passed away and Luis Barber assumed responsibility for him. Luis was Santiago's sibling. There are siblings who are partners, but the main one, mentor, was Santiago, and the one who got us to where we are today is Luis Barber, who passed away last December.
And then did they leave the theater?
Yes, they set aside. Then some brothers, one went to Germany, where he had a furniture company, another to music, another to other businesses, and Luis Barber, the youngest of all the brothers, was the one who, at 16 or 17 years old, took charge of the business in the absence of his brother Santiago.
The main merit that I attribute to Louis Barber above all was that he was a highly pioneering man. Highly pioneering as Louis Barber embarked on a train journey to India 4 decades ago, showcasing his innovative spirit. Imagine I traveled to India in order to purchase wood.
A wooden explorer that did not exist.
Of course, in the 70s, he used to go to Africa to look for wood. That, of course, no one did it.
Not there, truly absent. Louis toured Europe.
Times only with the car and with a map, which before there was no GPS, of course. I went with the map and learned languages by listening to tapes in the car while traveling through Europe. To search for wood, imagine. This is the great merit that Louis Barber had for me. Apart from his constancy, which was very constant, he was a very persevering man, and that was part of Barber's success. Today, things have changed a lot. Now we work very differently. And, well, we have taken a bit of the legacy, Luis's daughter especially, and us who are in charge. Now, of course, it has nothing to do with it, right? But Luis said that, right? And me, stories.
Jose Luis must have stories that he has shared with you? Yes, we have also had a few interesting experiences, haven't we?
I've been working in the company for 30 years and, well, for instance, in order to access wood, we have to travel all around the globe in search of it, which is not an easy task because
in unsafe places.
The majority. Most of them are generally insecure.
Protected woods, scarce in quantity, expensive, and challenging to find reliable suppliers, ensuring legal sourcing and quality. Obtaining a trustworthy supplier for these highly protected woods is not easy, as it requires verifying the legality of the sources and the quality of the wood. So, what we often say, right? What is more difficult to buy than to sell? We find it much more difficult to buy than to sell, and sometimes we can spend years looking for a wood, and we cannot get it because there are no suppliers that guarantee legality, reliability, and quality.
For example, let's say when you go to South Africa, of course, there are countries that are, depending on which area of the country is unsafe, have you encountered some strange situations, right?
Besides being unsafe, the country is mentioned in terms of unsafe countries, but it's easy to access the capitals of those countries. Unfortunately, our destinations are not the capitals. They are rural areas located in the forest, in the middle of the jungle, with extremely poor infrastructures. The most challenging aspect is reaching these places. And then almost all the ways we work in the tropics are from countries like that, few stable countries there.
It is truly fascinating that we say, what do you purchase later on? You purchase the trunk, and how do you analyze and interpret the data?
Many for the past 30 years, I'm not even talking about 50 years, but 30 years up to today, because there are also limitations when it comes to exporting wood depending on the country. Logs could be imported globally in the past, but now it's often impossible due to lack of means. Even if it is possible, many countries lack the resources to import logs because they used to come in ships, in the hold, which is now practically non-existent. Where are we? In Valencia was a pioneer in Spain, in the wood market throughout Spain. The best port was Valencia, people from Andalusia, from the north of Spain. Valencia was the core of the purchase and sale of timber in logs that is over now, that no longer exists. And even if you could bring some of those logs, there are no ships with cargo hold to bring logs. You have to bring them in a container. And then there are countries where the export of logs is already prohibited, even in plank. Either the planks have to be of certain measurements, or they have to be cut, or they have to have a molding made because they are required in order to have labor and development in the country. Then wood prohibitions that are prohibited for commercializing it or with restrictions have changed.
Fortunately, at present, there is a growing number of controls that exist to oversee the marketing of wood in the present day. Well, they guarantee that there is less and less illegal logging in the world, right? But obviously, for a company like ours, well, it necessitates more effort, more bureaucracy.
Especially because bureaucracy in some countries can be brave.
Of course, for us who work with Origin, for example, we have a company, a sawmill in Cameroon too, and working there is very difficult, right? So we travel a lot there. We have also had a sawmill in Madagascar, in Nigeria, Romania, in many countries that is very difficult to work and work well, right? So, well, yes, anecdotes. We have a few from a man like me, who are the ones who usually travel to buy the wood, both from our sawmills that we have and to buy from other companies, right? We, for example, also go to India a lot to buy, or to Brazil, or to many other countries. And well, it is now our turn to embark on exciting and thrilling adventures that await us.
But, for example, what is the process of legalizing that wood that is, for example, there, that you go to India, right? For example, there, well, you will see the wood, and you have to legalize it before bringing it here.
Don't have to legalize it. Wood is already legal. It's already legal.
It depends on the country.
Every country has its own laws. Then every country is like a world.
India. A country doesn't work, others don't.
It is very concrete, very different, that the government is the one in charge, that it does like auctions. It is the government that sells the wood. And then, for example, in India, you cannot import logs or planks. Everything has to be cut. So in India, no, you can import neither plank nor log, but we go there to select piece by piece. I am going there. I will spend 2 weeks buying wood. I will go to a lot of different companies to visit them and select piece by piece the wood. And I'm there with our provider by my side, and I'm saying, well, this one, not this one, choosing and meeting the quality criteria that we must consider. Is it compliant, right?
And then it is a tough job because we are there. Well, the working conditions, well, they are not like here in Europe. Well, you hardly have any light. You are in a place where mosquitoes are eating you, bugs are eating you, a heat that can kill you. You clean the work, it cleans the work. So that's also a male expert.
To depart and engage in conflict in those nations.
Really, a craftsman, when he goes to buy woods for your guitar, it is a much facilitated process, isn't it? Of course, of course.
The great merit of what I say.
From Madeira Barber is that we do that hard work. Because, of course, a luthier who wants to purchase 10 sets from India.
They won't attend.
India to buy 10 video games.
Buy them. Today you can buy them. From here, purchase 10, 20, 50 games in India, and they'll send them to you. Not everyone is aware of the suppliers, nor are the suppliers aware of the buyers. Everyone is aware of us, and we already know all individuals.
While they have the option to buy them, they lack the ability to choose them like we do.
It is a craftsmanship job of professionalism.
Irresponsible because nowadays, according to the laws in Europe, the one who imports the wood is the one who has the legal responsibility for how it is imported. So you can conduct inspections of how and where you are importing and what documentation you are requesting during the importation process. Importation responsibility lies with the importer into the EU market, not with the purchaser who has already bought it within Europe.
The truth is that we are glad that there are those controls and that it is like that, although bureaucratically it gives a job that has to be crazy. And I imagine that due to the changes in laws from one way to another, I imagine that during those processes it must have been a series of nightmares causing discouragement.
And it is still.
Sometimes it can take months to approve a document or schedule an appointment, for example.
We were present when they altered a law that had an impact on us with the Palo Santos imported from India.
But more than the goals, restarting didn't make sense.
I desired to travel to Suebre, showcase the stock and...
I primarily believe that is incorrect. I comprehend why they have facilitated the sale of the instruments. However, I believe it is a mess that will eventually be revealed. I believe it is poorly controlled.
It could be done well, but for that there must be officials who certify the guitars. They say, hey, this 80s guitar made of Palo Santo de Rio. You say, hey, it's from the 80s, made of Palo Santo. You say, yeah, but what? This is funny, right? Going to Barcelona, which you're unaware of. Well, they take care of animal species and all that stuff there, a department in Barcelona, right? We bring the guitar and they ask for invoice, something that proves it's from 1980. The questions seem funny. Initially, it may seem deceptive, but I understand it's not an expert. However, they label it as from the 80s, showing wear and tear, and claim an invoice can prove its origin in that era.
You have to have the invoice.
But the thing is, you see that and you say, in the end, they had to change it. They had to change it and say, hey, we won't mess with the instruments. They will mess with the companies that sell wood with you, then with the craftsman who is also responsible for that wood he buys to build, but in products in one hand.
He put himself at the level of the user, the musician. In other words, the musician was the one who had the responsibility of moving with the instrument, and at any customs where any customs officer could ask you without any idea.
They did it to us with all clubs open. We decided we are going to tell the guitar makers to put everything that is the bridge, the head, that they make it out of ebony.
Experiencing a decline in sales, losing valuable wooden containers and hard-to-find woods, And if I had personally traveled to Nicaragua to purchase a wooden container and oversee the process, only to have that purchase jeopardized by the delay in approving the CD's document, resulting in the loss of both the purchase and the supplier, because it took months to approve it for us.
Yes, they couldn't back the material.
So, of course, the supplier could not bear that burden of expenses at the source of storage until the CITES was approved here. So there it is. It is often extremely difficult at times.
The problem is that there are many laws that are very well thought out in an office, and then they are put into practice.
Inspection shortage, lack of trained personnel. Yes, everything takes a long time. And of course, it's complicated.
Yes.
But it's understandable that it's controlled in developed nations because in the end, many countries, even if they get CITES documentation, find it inadequate. I mean, everything can be bought.
Well,
hence, arising from the most highly developed countries, they require a series of documentation to verify that the certificate, which has been issued and signed, has been obtained in a legal and legitimate manner.
Certain countries that are considered high risk require additional documentation when traveling from those specific locations.
There is a list. It is already on a red list if Nicaraguan wood appears. It will be controlled by the scientific police in Europe to see if all the procedures for obtaining that certificate have been done legally, in accordance with the established regulations.
the conclusion is that with so much bureaucracy problem of lack of tree cutting due to controls that are super good, right? However, the ultimate finding is that the cost of wood will keep rising daily. Furthermore, this is a logical expectation that holds true each and every day. The initial division of wood, due to the presence of a separate trunk, has already undergone a change, which has already occurred. Yet it's altered.
I realize that there are different species of wood from 30 years ago to today, even buying from the same source, from the same supplier, with the same guarantees that it will be good wood. It is true that it has the best wood on the market now, but not the same wood that existed 30 years ago. To contact you with black forks where the percentage of grades you used to receive has no correlation with the percentage you currently receive.
Still, the wood you choose is like the first to the first.
Besides price, besides cost, besides problems, wood quality is not what it used to be years ago, and it is understandable. We are discussing species that require numerous years to regenerate. Therefore, there is insufficient time as the industry does not allow for regeneration at the same pace at which it operates.
There is so much value when you separate the special first wood and apart that you have been able to obtain on occasions from fallen trees. From trees that, yes, that are, value comes from there, value comes when craftsman buys it, value comes from there too.
Our intention always, there is more demand than supply for those qualities. For example, we have many woods that we do not have in special or first quality. There is a much greater demand than supply. Only 2% of what you purchase is available for sale. Perhaps you can obtain a 2% discount. Thus, we lack sufficient quantity to meet the market demand.
The wood you consider may lack quality. Context is important when discussing guitars, as we have done in previous videos. There are different qualities of guitars, not just good or bad. Some guitars are incredible and super good. Quality standards have changed over the years, so the wood you use may not meet the standards of 30 or 40 years ago. However, it is still a very good wood. The curing process is crucial and will be discussed later. Acoustically, it is a wonderful wood that you can enhance with the right treatment. Consider these factors when evaluating the wood for your guitar to ensure it meets your requirements and produces the desired sound. Discussion of aesthetics.
Ultimately, you talk about the demands of the market. However, I have come to understand this over the years. With luthiers that I consider to have an impressive trajectory and are internationally recognized. That not everyone has the same patterns when looking at wood. Even many of them, when they buy the wood with their criteria, they leave the wood in the warehouse for as long as they consider, and sometimes when they go to use it, they discard it. After inspecting it with light, we made the initial selection, then they selected it using a magnifying glass. Later, they resold the wood to another luthier, considering it unsuitable for their purposes.
That is a job that, yes, that we want to promote from Madeira Barber the work of, to raise awareness among people, because the end user who buys a guitar most likely does not have the awareness of what we are talking about, the percentages of qualities, the difficulty of obtaining wood, and maybe, I don't want it to be black, and maybe a fingerboard.
That
it is not completely black, precisely and structurally it is exactly the same or even better than a black one, that the cut is not the same, and people now have a huge level of demand, and that has a big impact on the environment. Because I have a little knot, I don't want that guitar anymore. And that cannot be, because it is a crime, correct? We possess a substantial amount of wood that individuals simply discard due to its aesthetics.
You will have seen a lot in old guitars, Torres guitars. You will have seen the wood he used, sometimes guitars with a 3-piece top. And nobody puts a hair on that guitar.
And nothing occurs. That is why it used to be complicated. We always try to shorten everything we can in the interview, and if we are not careful, we end up speaking for 2 hours because the topics are extremely interesting. When talking about old guitars, in the past they used to be categorized as first and second, with the second one being exactly the same as the first one, the only difference being the varying quality of aesthetics that they possessed. Just that. But the construction quality of one and the other was exactly the same. It had been made by the same author of the masterpiece, and acoustically it was exactly the same. Here the issue is that aesthetically one did not meet the quality standards as the other, and the price varied a little. A little bit, not a lot. Why is a 3-piece Torres guitar highly regarded? Acoustically they're amazing.
Price, we should talk.
Show respect for the author and acquaint yourself with the world of wood to ensure that people are not as... Certainly the work that is undertaken by...
For me, the value is the artist's work. Because a high-quality guitar, speaking of wood, a high-quality guitar with wood, a second-quality guitar in price, there's not much difference.
I shouldn't.
No, in wood. I don't discuss the instrument. Only the wood, yes, there's a difference between a first or a special one. But you keep adding parts of the instrument, of what a special one can cost you or a first one can cost you, and there is not a huge price difference between one and the other. But the craftsman can be the same and the work is the same.
Well, Tony, if things continue as they are now and that culture is not created where a person can come to accept that a first division artisan guitar by a great master artisan can make you a 3-part back, or that it has, as you say, a little knot in the holy wood that is not so serious, I mean, there will come a time when there will be a big difference already. From your company, there will be a big difference from the guitar, the first-class wood, to the guitar.
At times it can be a bit difficult due to the large amount of wood that is consumed, which is not on an artisanal level but rather on an industrial level of production. And there are already factories that use qualities equal to or better than many artisans. But they consume more than an artisan. And then the instrument, the value of that wood is not reflected in the value of the instrument.
Because there are many well-known companies worldwide that use high-quality wood or spend a lot of money buying expensive wood for an instrument that will not be a top-tier one, but what they have purchased is indeed of top-tier quality.
And a certain level of demand is established in the market that is not sustainable in the long run.
Sure.
Ecologically speaking.
Certainly, the demand is growing rapidly and on the rise. And there is less and less wood of that quality, fortunately, because forests are increasingly being taken care of, reforested more, protected more, and made sustainable. But for that a tree reaches the age for the best it has that quality because it needs many years. So what cannot be is the wood that does not meet the requirements that a special or a first one must have. That wood has to be discarded, because in addition it is the large volume of what is obtained, the performance of when you cut something, most of what comes out is second or third. So if that is discarded, that cannot be.
But it's true that different woods are increasingly used, right? In the past, only Palo Santo de Indias, Palo Santo de Rio, Cyprus, right? Now there is, yes, Evanoxotic, yes, Palo Santo from Madagascar, Palo Santo from Brazil, Palo Santo. There is a bunch of, and an increasing number of people are leaving.
There are forests that perhaps we become acquainted with during a journey, and after a span of 3 or 4 years, we begin to possess them and commence their commercialization. However, until that time, it proves to be exceedingly challenging due to the closed-mindedness of individuals.
Yes, absolutely. We make a conscious effort. We are not rigid in that aspect, but we are compelled to adapt due to market demands and conditions. We are for flamenco guitar, cypress, Indian Palo Santos. In maple, for instance, we'd like to introduce it more because we like it much more.
The curly maple, which is beautiful.
Guitar incredible then, wow.
Costlier option?
To operate it, the outcome it provides is highly appreciated. For Gomalaca, it's one of the best types of wood to apply varnish to. Maple has no reason to be envious of numerous other species.
In this case, we have almost 100 different species, and it is true that we have introduced many to the market. There are some that we have practically exclusively that are not found in the market. But what Tony was saying before, that it costs, because first it has to be a sustainable wood, that is, that there is a significant quantity in the market that can be sustained over time before introducing it, that is, of course, legal, and that fits people, that you can get it regularly, sounds well, be appealing, and at a price that is affordable. You must gather numerous elements for a wooden product to become available in the market.
Yes, the brave also confront the bull, testing themselves, you know?
Yes, see, with sequels we've had great experience due to it.
Last long-use sequels used for many years.
Yes, for sure.
When we removed it, few knew its true nature.
Yes, in fact, in 70s,
The sequels were marketed before the red cedar.
Wow.
Prior to the red cedar, due to being a cut wood,
Is this sustainable? Because in the end they are super trees. Those are trees.
No, plenty of quantity.
no, they are fallen trees, old trees, cannot be cut.
They're huge trees that give lots of wood, right?
each tree, yes, but of course that is restricted.
Not planted, not growing, not there.
Logging permits, we particularly are not purists. We like inventions. But for example, we like the mahawa, which is a wood-like green color. We have a liking for porphyro. We consider ourselves to be purists when it comes to the guitar, don't we? We always say, but personal taste, it's not criticizing the current world of classical guitar, but we're purists in the sense that we consider Torres guitar to be the Spanish guitar. The flamenco guitar keeps the canons of the Torres guitar, so we consider it must be a light guitar with specific tops and a specific pulsation. We don't care if the grain is closer or more separated, although it is true that it is more separated. And in the end, a top that is too soft does not project the sound like a first-rate top. We could be more delicate with a closer grain top, and we wouldn't mind if it had some defect. However, we believe that a second-rate or very separated grain throughout the top affects it acoustically. But in the back and sides, we believe it must be a wood, no matter how hard it is, but it must be light.
And I also believe that sometimes it's the craftsman's problem. Sometimes they tell you, craftsman, it's not that Madagascar weighs too much. Yes, the river also weighs. And look at Guitar Canyons. You have to make a guitar, even at risk. You know what I'll tell you? We assume you buy a Santos Hernandez, Marcelo Barbero, Sunday Esteso de Palo Santo de Rio. You assume that it has some fissure. Another thing that we always try to defend from Solera. Think that when we opened the company, other companies did not buy guitars with a fissure. With 2 fissures, 3 fissures, they discarded them completely. That is, to educate people, to explain to them that the violin is super common to look for a violin with 200 years with sky-high prices, and above all for them, their session is original varnish. But that has 2 or 3 cracks is not a problem. What's wrong with it?
Leave the best wood of the hoop and bottom so it has necessary weight due to distinct projection caused by Spanish construction. It is equivalent to lightweight. That is, you don't buy a guitar from the beginning of the century. It is true that it dehydrates a little, but of course it has not lost half a kilo. The guitar acoustically has to be a light guitar. It doesn't matter if the wood is hard or heavy, make it thinner, is that it cracks within 30 years, that bottom is going to crack. It doesn't matter, it can be repaired. It can be repaired, but acoustically it works, yes.
I don't know if it's because, Raja, we've had old Palo Santo and without...
But it has a higher risk, Carlos, than Pino's potatoes.
Not enough to leave some guitars we sometimes grab, but...
No, we used to come back prior to the utilization of raw materials in our processes.
As an illustration, a remarkably apparent case that we witness are the tuning forks made of ebony. Ebony is a type of wood that is prone to infestation by moths and has numerous insect holes. They emerge in a big number, and it's a fully functional fretboard that can be fixed, and people don't want it. Certainly we sell, but most people don't want it, even when selling at prices well below its quality standards. Because it can be a special tuning fork and we are selling it at a third price and people don't want it. There will come a day when maybe ebony is included in CDs and people will pay for it.
He who knows, works with, values, and uses it. Now the one who doesn't...
Most do not.
But it's a sound of what the advisors were saying, deducing a little bit in.
That and individuals start to become conscious.
No matter how we pretend, ultimately, we're somewhat selfish. I always empathize with customers. If I see a price difference, because many people don't know, but it's important to put people in context. The wood to build a guitar is not worth what they think. It is worth much more. A high-quality wood can cost you €1,000 to buy all the wood. That's where our defense of the artisan guitar comes from, right? For $2,000, you can't find a 100% handmade guitar. It is unfeasible if you have this quality of wood that cost you €1,000 for the entire first division guitar. The day will come when that wood will cost you $2,000 and the third-rate wood will cost $500, and people will understand that labor is what makes sense. For aesthetics, it'll cost you the joke. Naturally, I selfishly say, if you tell me, Jordy, what wood in your handmade guitar? From F. Barber. F. Barber won't impose, depends on woods, right? But if you convinced him, right? So that I could give you a second-hand wood and he tells you, well, Jordy, it's €300 less. I say, no. But if you inform me, because what's valuable besides the wood is the price, well, it's their work. If you said it's €2,000 less, I'd definitely consider it. And I'd say, give me the second quality wood, yes.
The guitar will be good. As I was saying, when you check the price of first-class wood, second class, there's not much difference.
There, they cannot lower the price on the Bismarck water guitar.
If this continues like this, and people are not aware of being a little more tolerant, the day will come when there will be a huge price jump from one wood to the other.
Also, like constructors, they are made. The competition they have is, as you said, a guitar with a defective top at the same price as the other one without the defect. They are already giving you more for the eye, the one without the defect, without attempting and without making physical contact with the guitar. However, it occurs to us in the identical manner. I believe we sell certain woods with a certain quality below the price. But of course, we have to understand that we are not an old winery where we leave the wood for 10 years and then sell it again. We need to distribute and transport that merchandise.
So you cannot set the price where you think it should be. You have to set it at the market price.
And among ourselves, those of us who market these species, we also have our battle of not going overboard with the prices. Isn't that correct? To be within market price. But there are things that should be treated as such. One day a special Debano passed. The price that you now say 30, 35, 40 euros an ebony fingerboard, and there are many people who are shocked. If the magician puts 130 euros on a Beto de los Alpes lid and people understand it, it's harder to get that fretboard than that lid.